I was living in New York City. 2020 happened, COVID shut down. I moved back to Ohio. I joined Facebook dating. I get contacted by somebody who's supposedly in Seattle. So we strike up a conversation. They seem really nice. We seem to have a lot of the same things in common. And she seemed to make a lot of money. We had been talking for about 3 weeks. Every day, did you eat breakfast today? What did you have? How was your day going? Here's a picture of what I had today. We even talked about what it would look like to have a life together. 3 weeks into this, then she mentions this thing. And first, I'm resistant to it because I don't know anything about cryptocurrency. Eventually, I trusted her enough that I said, sure, okay, you know what? I'll try this thing. We'll see what happens. And for the first couple of days, I was making a little bit of money. I had a little bit of money in my wallet. This is working well. So I went out and took out a loan for $5,000. And she told me, if you do that, you're going to get all this money back. And it started working. Apparently, I was making a little bit of money. Eventually, I take out a loan for $8,000. Now, $18,000 in debt. I get a message from customer service. You are to get $200,000 in USDT. But to do that, you have to pay $30,000 in taxes. I go to message my girlfriend. Hey, what is going on? They just took all this money and now they're telling me I have to pay taxes on money I don't have yet. I realized at that point I was in a scam. And I was sitting downstairs in the living room and I just bowed my head. I didn't know what to do.
A surge in so-called romance scams. According to the FBI, there's a major new category of these scams, crypto dating scams.
That's right. It's called a pig butchering scam, where scammers patiently work their victims before moving in for the kill.
The FBI estimates the scam known as pig butchering cost Americans nearly $4 billion last year alone.
You trust somebody and you get betrayed. It really hurts more than the money part.
Pig butchering is a scam named for the way it lures victims in, fattens them up, gains their trust, and then drains their finances.
It's been massively successful. Just this month, it was at the center of a huge local news story in Kansas where it brought down a financial institution.
So in this case, the scammers hooked a big fish, and the big fish happened to be in charge of over $50 million because he was the head of a community bank located in southwestern Kansas.
Well, we're at the ABA Ag Bankers Conference in Omaha with Shane Haynes.
The defendant thought he was communicating with an individual, female, who was located in Asia. Their friendship grew, and then eventually the female began sharing investment opportunities for cryptocurrency. And initially, the investments were small, and the defendant was only using his personal funds, and then ultimately moved on to fraudulently wiring all of the bank's funds, which equaled $47.1 million in just 8 weeks.
A former Western Kansas bank executive sentenced today in federal court for embezzling millions of dollars. Shan Haynes was sentenced this afternoon to 24 years in prison. It's a scheme that led to the bank's collapse.
Elkhart is a tiny town in southwest Kansas. These were their mother's retirement funds that were going to pay for her nursing care. These were people's college funds. There was real financial harm to people, like real financial harm.
Today, dozens of community members showed up at court to share their stories of how Haynes' crime hurt them emotionally, physically, and financially.
One of the reasons why this case got so much attention is it is indicative of two really interesting themes. And one is the cybercrime and cyber currency aspect to it, and how those crimes and those systems are truly global.
There's like a terrible second part to this scam, which is that a lot of the people sending these messages are victims themselves.
My name is Yihao Lu. I was looking for a job and I encountered a recruiter online. They said there's a job opportunity to work as English to Chinese translator. Then I took the offer, and it turns out it was a job fraud, and I found myself ended up in the Milwaukee, Burma, in one of those scam compounds.
and their passports are taken away. They're held there, and they're forced to scam under the threat of torture, even worse.
They start working at 10:30, and every working day shall end at midnight. But altogether, the office consists of rows of cheap desk and cheap chair, computer on every desk, and before every computer there are rows of cell phones before them. Every group shall have some sort of work-life foreman to impose the disciplinary actions, and sometimes they will be tasered with the electric baton. And some other times, for instance, like me, who were found out talking to journalists and other parties, I was literally incarcerated in those torture chambers. It is literally diabolical.
The UN has estimated that more than 200,000 people are held in captivity to run scams.
The crime here involves an organized crime ring linked to an international human trafficking syndicate.
If you get scammed in this way, there's sort of a procedure that you should follow, but it's so ineffective that I think most people just give up. Victims are often turned away.
The problem is the remedy that everyone wants is restitution, right? And that's the intuitive and I think correct remedy. As I mentioned earlier, the problem is that these funds dissipate so quickly.
So some smaller countries, like you'll see Singapore, takes a national responsibility for crime against its citizens. So they try and block crime infrastructure getting into their citizens, right? And there isn't an expectation, I think, in the US that they protect their citizens from crime.
There's nothing that our law enforcement can do here without treaties with some of these countries like Cambodia. We cannot go in there and just arrest people.
There needs to be hard pressure on our own infrastructure providers that they're not part of the problem.
I reported to the Secret Service almost a year after I was scammed, and my case was investigated at that time by the Secret Service here in Ohio. And the case is 4 years in, but these could take 7 to 10 years. So, if we could do one thing, I know in America, the wheels of justice grind slowly. I know. But if we could make that a little quicker, that'd be great.